Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this week's Bet on Black Pitch. This is the 10K Project. My name is Tawana Rivers, and I have with us this evening Mr. Leonard L.S. Johnson, and he's here to talk about his dynamic project today. We're going to start like we always do. We're going to go to the campaign page so that you all know where to find the campaign, where the due diligence information is. You know, that's very important for me is to make sure I tell you how to do fact checking, right? And to make sure this is a good opportunity for you to add to your portfolio. So I'll share my screen. Thank you to all of the community members. I like to call you family members that are out there that joined us this evening. All of you who are going to watch the replay, thank you as well. And super excited you guys continue to tune in week after week and join us as we lift up the Black entrepreneur. So thank you so much for that. All right, I'm going to share my screen here. Okay, so this campaign is on Net Capital. We've been to this site before. And on Net Capital, you can see the basic offering information here, right? So it's $104 minimum. I do want to make note that this campaign ends June 30th. So that's in 15 days, right? So I want to make sure you have time to do your due diligence, to ask any questions, so that you don't miss that deadline if this is something you're actually interested in investing. All right, you can see the valuation information. To date, LS has raised $38,199 via this campaign on Net Capital. You'll see all of the information here. Information about the team is listed. And then all the way at the bottom is where the magic happens. So here's all of the financial information. Here's the official offering statement, the Form C, right? So there's all that information. The other thing you guys know I like to show you is the discussion thread. You know, if you don't get your questions answered this evening, because maybe we run out of time, we don't think about it, this is where you want to reach out to LS and ask any additional questions, right? I prefer to lead you to this space because there are other investors who also may have questions, and they'll go here to read some of the Q&A to educate themselves as well. So if you ask your questions here, then that helps them as well. And also keeps it in one place for LS, not to have to go to 5 different places to answer questions about the campaign, right? Okay. So with that, I am going to stop sharing. Again, we'll put the campaign link. It's already in the chat. We'll put it continually through the evening. Any questions you have, please put in the Q&A. As you guys know, we have dialogue in the chat, but for the questions that you officially want me to ask LS, please make sure you put that in the Q&A so that I don't miss anything. All right. With that said, Jonathan, I'm going to turn this over to you.
Okay. So thank you, Tawana, and welcome to the community. Regarding the campaign and what we've raised so far, I am one of the things about crowdfunding that many in the community may or may not know is that you can also be talking to what's called angel investors that can participate in that. So if those commitments come in, this round may close sooner than later, or it may be extended, but there is that ability. So it's not always the iteration of what, which is interesting, is what crowdfunding does. So it allows the entrepreneur the ability to do both, talk to a community as well as talk to angel investors and even some, well, now institutional investors, because they seem to be trying to find the next unicorns, so to speak. So, but let me give you my background and then I'll get into my current offering and so forth. So, been an entrepreneur, serial entrepreneur. Now I'm going to state something and I'll explain why, because I think it gives a lot about vision and where people see things are going. So I've been a serial entrepreneur, been in business development, corporate stuff. I'm greater than 42 years old, so that'll give you some perspective there. But without the personal history, I'm just going to go to the data points of the business side, which is basically I've been in the Bitcoin space since about 2010. And Bitcoin is almost 12 years old, but I don't own any other cryptocurrency. I've been on the blockchain and in the technology since the threads, way before it was an issue. And the reason why I've been in that, and I've written books about it, which you know, Tawana, my latest edition book was in 2017, specifically, which is on artificial intelligence and cryptocurrency creating a new economic order. And when I published that book, Bitcoin was only 800, it was around $800 to $900 a coin, $800 to $900, not 80,000 or 30,000 or something like that. And I said it's inevitable to go up, not so much for the currency, it's in the book, but how this would become sort of a new technology backbone of what's coming. And the reason I'm putting that in context is everyone's, talking Bitcoin now, and people hear about my book, they're like, "Oh, you've been in this? You don't know any?" And Elon Musk is tweeting about it, and isn't it great, and this and that. And I've always said, there's two technologies that will be transformative. One, though, is artificial intelligence, and two is cryptocurrency as it aligns to that. And AI has been kind of on this path since about the early 2000s. Artificial intelligence went through a dark winter since the 50s. But since we have better computation, smartphones, and everyone's seen that since around, most people don't know. And this is correlation about trends and what to invest in and what's coming. We forget as humans, since 2007 was when the iPhone came out. It's only since 2007. Yet prior to that, we weren't swiping. Smartphones weren't the swipe we do. We were still doing text. See, we forget as humans. We forget how you catch something, how the early bird needs to catch the worm instead of waiting to see the worm develop or turn into something. Then you're too late because certain players will step in and buy it all out. So the iPhone's only 2007, and then the Samsung phone, and that kind of brought in this whole swiping industry of smartphones being swiped versus the Blackberries or the text phones. And then that's not even counting the ubiquitous growth of the App Store, okay? So everyone can look back and go, "Oh, Apple's just a genius, $1 trillion company. They're so smart," but they forget how things started, when they started, and if they had the opportunity to buy Apple shares. And I bring that up because if you had the opportunity to buy Apple shares, Facebook shares, yeah, of course I'd have bought them. Yeah. It's just almost like cryptocurrency. They say this in social media or at parties, but when the opportunity, very few are honest enough to look back and say, "Well, I was that person. Yeah, I didn't understand." And that's why I would suggest to everyone, do your research on not only the companies and the founders in the background, but understand more importantly the sector and the trend. And a lot of people don't do the macro. They follow, someone they know and so forth. And if you don't think AI is big, and all we're using right now is narrow AI like Siri. And another data point is that Siri, even though Apple rolled out with Siri, they didn't develop it. Stanford Research Institute developed it, or SRI. It's now called SRI International, which used to be Stanford Research Institute. I did my postgrad at Stanford, but they developed Siri and sold it to Apple. And then Apple built on top of it. So there's a lot of knowledge out there that, people don't know, especially our community. They really think, "Oh, they're just geniuses." They did not develop Siri. They built on top of Siri. So that being said, you have to be able to look at and do the work there on the research and put these, and this is all public information. You can just look up who built Siri. It's SRI. I think it's just the Stanford Research Institute or SRI International. Did they build Siri and sell it to Apple? You can Google it now. So the world is becoming more transparent when you can find these things out. But a lot of people don't know you don't know what you don't know. So you don't know what questions to ask. But if you looked at that, because Siri was a ubiquitous pinpoint for Apple to show that they were going toward AI, artificial intelligence, and these bots, and then that's Amazon Echo, because these are narrow AI. They're voice AI, but they're basically narrow. And so that's that voice assistance is one way to learn data and take in data. And it's under neural language programming, but I won't go too technical here. But when you look at how the world is heading, and that's what I wanted to get into, when you look at it where the world is going, you're starting to think about, like with crypto and artificial intelligence, we're going to a sort of digital touchless world. Now, everyone could say, "Well, that's a no-brainer. That's obvious, because we're here. We're in 2021. But we're going to continue to do that. And one of the things on the offering that I'm doing with AIDC, Artificial Intelligence Economic Development Growth, is we are working to build a 5G mobile app maker, which will allow small and mid-sized businesses to create their own mobile app with no code or low code, just basically it's simple. Like low code means you import an API into your site or something or that way. And no code means you just point and click to make their own mobile app to service their customers. And where this industry is going is artificial intelligence as a service will be projected to be a $5.5 trillion industry sometime in around 2025 to 2026. But a lot of people have revised that and said it'll be even 2024 because of COVID and the acceleration of digitization. And what I mean by that is also where the market and the trends are heading toward a one-to-one relationship. So everyone will say, well, why do I need a mobile app for my customer? Why does a small business need a mobile app? Whether it's Starbucks, a retail company, or even a service market company, they could just go to my website. Well, what's happening is the consumer wants more convenience. And a lot of the Siri and everything else is doing that convenience. So if it's your favorite business that you utilize a lot, you don't mind. Like, that's why people have their own bank apps. Like if they're with Bank of America, Chase, Wells Fargo, or whatever, they'll have those apps or their Verizon or phone apps on their phone because it's convenient. So if you utilize that service, you'll take the app and it'll be able to process your data in a streamlined way to the customer or the business you're using. On the business owner side, it allows them to directly communicate with their customers one-to-one versus going through an intermediary. So Facebook and Shopify and a lot of these companies are trying to get in this space because they know what's coming, and they won't say this publicly, but they know what's coming. So they're trying to aggregate a lot of the small and mid-sized businesses now in sort of a horizontal aggregation. When COVID has taught people one thing, a lot of the small and mid-sized businesses failed in the economy wasn't because of COVID. It's because the small business owner didn't even know when the customers would come in, no matter what the service was. They couldn't collect the fee. And then, humans don't want to go to a website and assuming when they might post an order and so forth. But if they had apps similar to Starbucks, and one of the things about Starbucks is when they rolled out their mobile app, I think their revenue increased by like 40% just on pre-orders, because people would just order their drinks before getting to Starbucks, and then they would just pick them up, the mobile app pickup. Even prior to COVID, and especially during COVID, they just saw a great increase in being able to service their customers. And that can be done on any business. It can be done with insurance. It can be done with service businesses. It's a way to communicate to your customer and kind of do billing in a security way and touchless way and sort of pre-book whatever it is, if you're ordering food. So that's why you see a lot of these DoorDash and middle services trying to get in that, to play that intermediary or middle person between the last mile of connecting to the home and the customers. But most, and this has been proven out several times, most small businesses, owners, and as well as a small business community already have their local community. It's like if I go to my local cleaners, I know who John is. I'd rather go to John. I don't need to find Susan 3 miles away because I'm just going to go back. As long as John does a good job of servicing me with my cleaners or whatever that business might be, I'm going to continue to do that. But if I have a mobile app and I know when John is open and when he's not, or I can pay my bills and know that my cleaner, that's just it's a touchless process, and it's a few thumb, clicks for my thumb on a mobile app, and I'm good. I just open the app, see that my order's ready, and be like, okay, I could optimize my time and be more efficient. And if there's any delays, let's say, and that's where small businesses can communicate directly with their customers in almost near real time. See, the America and most of the world has been used to expecting this from a consumer standpoint of instant communication or almost instant communication, or what's called near real-time communication. But for small businesses, a website doesn't do that. And it can't communicate in that direct, it doesn't allow the business owner to communicate in that direct real time. But there's a way to send several messages, and we're used to it in social media, but we're using it to apply it to commerce. And so that's what we're looking to do. I'll address any Q&A as it comes up later. But just to talk about the team, so I've been fortunate, my team members, So my background is entrepreneur, serial entrepreneur. Did my post-grad work at Stanford under Professor Ron Howard, who was well known in decision and probability theory. Getting a PhD in artificial intelligence now. My chairman of the board is Dr. Alexander Naraki, the former program director of NASA and the Canadian Space Agency. He actually led a team of 1,200 engineers that built the International Space Station. And when you hear about the ISS, where Elon Musk keeps tweeting about where he's sending his SpaceX rockets to, Dr. Alexander Naraki led 1,200 engineers to build that as the program director during NASA. My other board member is the head of global machine learning, the technical global machine learning lead, and the head of Amazon Partnership Network at AWS, Amazon Web Services. And just to let everyone know, Amazon Web Services is where Amazon gets about 70 to 80% of their revenue. It is not by the products you buy. They don't make a profit there, I should say. So they actually lose more money than delivering you, but AWS, because of their cloud and their AI services, gives them a lot more profitability, and that's where their profitability is. And he is the global machine learning lead for that. And just a side note, the head of AWS is now the new CEO of Amazon, because Jeff Bezos has resigned as CEO to go focus on Blue Origin and the rocket and space thing. But that the one that was the head of AWS is now the entire CEO of all of Amazon. So my board member has been with them for years and is a senior person there. You actually have to get Amazon's permission to be on my board. So we have to go through some song and dance there. And then the other side, because it's a startup, and they wanted to make sure, I think they probably want to see if they can buy it. I don't know. They just wanted to make sure what we were developing, but I just wonder why it took so long to get his approval. My other board member, an advisory board member, is the chief scientist at AGI, Artificial General Intelligence Laboratory. And he is also one of the chief artificial intelligence researchers and scientists at Boston Consulting Group. Boston Consulting Group is the counterpart to McKinsey. So they would be their direct competition. McKinsey and Company, if you have competition for McKinsey, it would be Boston Consulting Group. And most Fortune 100 companies, or 5,000 or Fortune 500, they all know who Boston Consulting Group is. You can just Google BCG. So that's my other advisory board member. And so that fills out, and my CTO and CSO, chief technical officers, chief software officer, are professors as well. We've got a partnership with Lowell's University of Technology, a multi-year partnership to develop technology in artificial intelligence and research and development. It's very fortunate to have that. Lowell's Technical is basically what some would call, it's in Europe, in Poland. They're the MIT of Europe. They've been around since 1945. They own a lot of patents in research and development around AI. There's a lot that schools own that people aren't aware of. That's where SRI created Siri. So when you're able to develop that, we have that partnership with them, and these are senior professors in applied computer science and brain interface computer science, and also in machine intelligence. One of the patents we own 3 patents and service marks. We own the trademark and service mark and patent to mind, which spells out M.I.N.D. It spells out the word mind. And that stands for Machine Intelligence Neural Network Database. So when you talk about defensibility, because people will say, well, okay, why can't someone else copy you? At the end of the day, yeah, they can always mimic a service, but if you've got patents and service marks and trademarks, then you get into a patent infringement, and we'll defend that legally. We also have patents and trademarks and service marks to algorithms, to 2 algorithms. I think we were one of the first to get an algorithm. At that time, I was at some think tanks, and they said, LS, the USPTO doesn't trademark or service mark algorithms because it's an algorithm, but a formula, a mathematical formula, and the definition thereof. But we do have them, and they're in the specific area of financial consultation and investment advisement and so forth, because our long-term goal is to provide on the back end. The front is the mobile app maker, just to get small businesses started. The back end is going to be artificial intelligence as a service. And that's going to indicate into providing economic data to small and mid-sized businesses, sort of like a subscription like Amazon Prime, where they're able to know the local forecasts. And I'll simplify it, but it's a little bit more complicated, but it's not so simple when people know that interest rates are going to go up or down. Every time the Fed has a meeting, it moves the needle on Wall Street one way or the other. Does the Federal Reserve, I mean, does the Federal Reserve keep interest rates the same? Are they going to increase them or lower them? These three benchmarks moves Wall Street all the time. But then, because it gives an indication to what's coming, it gives headwinds, and then people can respond to them. We're going to do the same thing, but in a more micro area. So take macro data, like macroeconomic data, as well as local data. I'll put that in our artificial intelligence AGI system, and then output what we see as a trend forecast economically. So let's say I think you're in Kentucky, Bill, right, Tawana? So if I would look at the local area and then maybe the regional area, and then look at what forecast data is coming in on the ground around the business service, around the industry or the sector you're in, okay? And then be able to look at that with macro trends, and then be able to, giving you a report that could suggest, almost like a McKinsey, more of this is getting with AI, when you're able to crunch large data sets and give an output that you should pivot X versus Y. You should go in the direction versus, you should go start heading left versus staying, central to the right, because in about 3 months, you're going to see this hit. And that's why a lot of banking and large institutions always look to the Fed, because they can pivot, and the rich get richer that way, see, because they can pivot ahead of time. They can say, oh yeah, it's like the weather forecast 8 to 6 months in advance or something. So as an example, and if you're able to do that and interpret that data, we'll try to refine it and make it simple as a report that they subscribe to and opt in, but most importantly, allowing them to be able, the small business owners, to be able to forecast themselves. Because a lot of small businesses, by its nature, is reactive. It's not proactive because they don't have the data. They don't have the resources. It's very reactive. It's like, it's always, I would say in my observation and in my opinion, it's 98% reactive. When I mean proactive, like proactive 2 months down the line or 1 month down the line, most of the time they watch, see, wait, pivot, watch, see, wait, pivot, watch, see, wait, pivot. And then they're constantly, you're always catching up instead of being ahead. And the big industries are always like, they're 2 years out of what they're building. And so a lot of companies and individuals, that's why they're chasing Bitcoin now. There were some people that, were in this space a long time ago. Friends of mine people I know that bought it and own it. I don't, because I just love the technology. And I also believe at some point you're going to see more of a divergence from Bitcoin itself into the cryptocurrency space of utility. And probably that's why I see more of the technology behind it will be the most value. I think in the beginning it looks good, but I project in about 5 years, you'll understand most people will get what I'm saying, but there's going to be spin-offs of it. The currency will still be somewhat valuable but as a utility, but you're going to see more wealth created on different types of currency. I don't want to say Ethereum or others, but there's going to be more utilization of technology with embedded AI and blockchain and other things for smart contracts. That's where the real holy grail in the space is. That's why the big banks are getting into it. JP Morgan actually has their own coin to be able to run contract law that they launched in 2018. And they launched it and then kept quiet about it. Chase, JP Morgan, Wells Fargo, a lot of these big banks already have been studying this around the world. And I'm not even talking about countries like China. They have their own yuan coin they're launching. The US is considering to launch a coin, and the Federal Reserve in the summer, they're going to review, that'll come out publicly. So you're going to see more of the technology, but this will be centralized versus decentralized. But at the end of the day, it's the same type of technology. And so the world of wealth is going to be in tech, in my opinion, and specifically around artificial intelligence and things like quantum computing, which is my focus. And then it will encompass some cryptocurrency or the technology of cryptocurrency. I like to say Bitcoin technology / blockchain, because it's really that tech that's at the core of it, not so much a particular currency. And with that, I'm good for Q&A.
All right, so I'm going to ask a question. I'll start it off, guys. So if you have questions, please put them in the Q&A. I've got a question, right? As a small business owner, right? how would the app maker help me? So if you can give me like a use case that I could implement.
You can give me a business. Give me a business and let's walk through it. What business?
The 10K project. This is the business.
Well, okay, well, so this is a digital business. Okay, so that's a case project. This is a digital business. But as a digital business, and versus, because you're more service, but digital, but not a direct service like insurance or anything. This is more of a networking digital business. So as a networking digital business, the app could just allow you to have people download the app. And actually, you actually did this for me when you shared an app to me, which I did download. Okay, haven't used it as much because I think the app needs to work on it, or the developers. But it was an app. I won't name the app, but you know the app I'm talking about. It was an audio app. Okay, I'll say that. And I'm not saying discredited, but I did actually download the app and install it. And so what you're talking about is a growth of, like, as an example of that business. If I downloaded the app and I like the app and everything, I'm going to share the app with my own network and friends. That's called, organic growth. That's viral because it's a decentralized platform from a centralized space. See, you're doing Facebook or telling me to go to a location. And by the way, just to hint on this, we're actually doing this again, and I want to laugh. This is in that context. Most people don't understand that Google, the two co-founders of Google were at Stanford getting their PhDs, quick story, and they built their search engine Index. They didn't want to build a company. They wanted to sell it. So they went to Yahoo, had a meeting with the CEO and everything. And at that time, Yahoo was a portal. It was a destination site, centralized. Everyone went to Yahoo. And they're like, well, we're Google, we're Sergey and Aaron, and we brand and Sergey, and we think we have a better algorithm, and we'll be able to pull up, web searches faster if you use our search engine. And Yahoo CEO and board and everything said, no. I mean, everyone comes to Yahoo and they spend 4 hours on Yahoo. We don't want them going anywhere else. We don't care if they search for something faster. All we want them to do is stay on Yahoo longer. So if our search engine is not as fast, it's better for Yahoo. And the two founders of Google was like, well, the web's about to become decentralized because it's about to start building website. And this is the circa 1997, 98. This is that area right before Google started. I think officially they started 2004, whenever it was. But this is that timeline when they're like, the web is going to be creating more websites, and it's going to be bigger and bigger and bigger. And people are going to go out on the web. They're not going to go to the portal called Yahoo or MSN or whoever it might, or AOL, I'm sorry, or AOL, just to stay there at AOL.com, just to stay there forever. And then, it turns out that the two co-founders of Google were right. And so when Yahoo rejected them, and they went out and raised like 100K or something, and they built a search engine in about the actual core algorithm in about 2 months at that time, just start indexing the web with a faster optimization search engine. So that's a distributed network that Yahoo saw, that the co-founders of Google saw ahead of time, that the web itself, the macro trend, the internet itself would get bigger, or actually the web, because the internet came since the 60s from DARPA, but the World Wide Web would get bigger. There would be more websites, more people would continue to build, they would continue to grow, and then the people would go out to things, and you would need an engine that can optimize so people aren't waiting around. When is this website going to load? And so Google turned out to be right. So back to parlay that into your service businesses with apps, we're going toward we're just repeating history in a sense, where people aren't just going to go to Facebook and Instagram and the top social media companies, they know this already. We all in Silicon Valley, and I'm in Southern California now, but there's a network of people who they watch trends very well, macro trends, and they'll tweak it, not to show too many people what's going on, but we're about to head toward a 1-to-1 ratio with apps. And those apps are going to be able to spread from the sort of the grassroots or bottom up. Because right now, see, everything spreads from a top down. Instagram me, go downward. Put me on Facebook, you're going down. That's horizontal, I should say. So it's a horizontal going downward versus a vertical bottom coming up. And what's about to change is we're going back to the bottom coming up.
All right.
Does that make sense?
It does make sense.
Okay.
It does indeed. let's get to some of the questions. And I'm sure that'll open it up to start making even more sense. So Jesse says, is your service or app going to run on top of AWS, or will you set up your own independent cloud or infrastructure?
Oh, which cloud service? Okay, so, well, the apps itself will be created by the individual small business owner, but it will be in a cloud structure. I mean, that's just a no-brainer. If it runs on like Databricks or something, we'll probably partition one of the AWS clouds, or I'm open. I mean, I could do Google Cloud if it makes more sense, but the cloud will be in a secure level to at least back up the app service. And then if a particular small business owner wants their data in the cloud, so there's two components here real quickly. Once it's developed, we are going to be like Squarespace. That's where it's a template. So you go to a location and you set up your website, or you can do that now without, with a few clicks or whatever. The way the mobile app maker will work is it will be a destination where small businesses will go and then create their mobile app, iOS or Android, and then deploy it. Okay, it will sit there. Now, where that individual's, if that individual wants to do API or build, and we'll have customization on top of that, where they want to point their data and sit it somewhere, that's their choice. But what we will have is sort of the horizontal distributed method. So you go to that one place, right? You'll log in. Like, as an example, AWS has about, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of businesses, including the US government, in AWS cloud service. So the government itself can go to AWS and they will host, like the Department of Defense literally has a partition of the cloud on AWS services because it's very secure. And it can be backed up and there's no hacking issues there. And a lot of these places where these you've been hearing about these ransomwares and the cyber attacks have been for the lowest, weakest link because they're not in a secure cloud environment. So our particular platform will be in a secure cloud environment, such as AWS. But as an example, but if a individual business owner wants to store it locally or have their own server for their own personal data, which they will be responsible for and they will control, that can be up to them. And I'm trying not to get too technical, but they're right of how it'll work, because at the end of the day, you're really looking at a parent and a child. Okay, and so in a sense, that's maybe a better description. Our platform will be the parent. All the small businesses are the children, or the children, and where they choose to do it themselves is up to them. That's more their choice.
Okay, so Kevin has a question. He has several questions. So, do you have any customers yet? Are you pre-launch? And if yes, when will you have MVP?
Well, that's exactly what the raise is for, which is disclosed. We're pre-launched. We're looking to conclude this round, which will get us probably a minimum MVP, at least in its first iteration. And then we might have another round following up on this. But regardless, the customers, I've already have partnerships where the customers are waiting. So I'm a member of the National Diversity Coalition. I'm also a member of the Asian Business Association of Orange County, the National Asian America Association, and about 4 other ones. I would aggregate; they all have somewhere to about 300 to 600,000 members, and that's why a lot of this started me to do the small business app, because I had already gone toward them. And the app development and what they're trying to build, they can't afford it because this would be a service cost for people. So when we roll it out, it's going to sort of be, we have projections that Net Capital doesn't allow it, but we have a target, a revenue target. It's in our discussion page. Just read the discussions. It'll show you what our thinking is. But if we can close out this round sooner, because we're already in June, so that may not happen until 2022 now, where we look to have revenue. But what we're looking to offer is a service at sort of a low barrier entry point for small and mid-sized businesses, and then a sort of subscription base. So, because right now when they do apps, especially, and none of them can offer artificial intelligence on the back end. That's why Shopify is growing so fast. They're making it where it's, maybe it'll be $30 a month, 40. I haven't, crunched the numbers depending on the value for the back end. And the original, there'll be an initial setup fee. but it's where they can launch a service immediately and kind of get online within a month or two, or a few weeks. I like to say it worst case, I don't want to say 2 hours, because people need to check and do their research, but they can have a mobile app, have it deployed in a short time period. And so that's what we're looking to offer. That's where we look at the trajectory of the growth to be very fast, because the adoption rate will be pretty quickly. And we've already done a few focus groups within these associations, and especially since COVID, there's just been so much. And that's also on the offering page, the problem, the pain, the shutdowns. You've got so much data from Small Business Association. That's why all of these stimulus checks were put out, and all of this funding, because these businesses couldn't even try to compete. So that's where we're at.
Okay, Dalen has a few questions. Can users manage the app distribution through your platform?
What do you mean by app distribution? What do they mean by app distribution?
Dalen, you want to clarify? I'll go on to the second question. Can you launch directly into the App Store or Google Play?
You mean well, that's the goal. The goal is that it's a mobile app maker. So not directly, they will be able to create their app, and then the app should be able to be on iOS. Part of our MVP for that is encoding with iOS criteria and what am I thinking? Android. I was going to say Google, but Android, because Google owns Android, but it will be Android in their app stores to be compliant there. Individuals could do that themselves, but once they launch the app, that app should appear, so that they then can send that to their customers. Yes, correct. So the way this is designed is like your business. So you would then say, let's say we walk into your case scenario, Tawana. You'll be like, okay, we've got our mobile app. You just happen to use the IDC as a service provider, because we're going to be an artificial intelligence service provider in that sense, and as a service. So we're the platform, almost like your internet connection. Okay. So we then allow you to create the app kind of quickly. And if you need customization, that's later. But then once you're ready to go live, that then goes through, to the App Store. Once they're on approval to Android App Store, or to iOS's App Store, I should say. And then from there, it's live, and then you're able to send direct customers, because we're not going to be in the middleman from that. So you'll be like, just go to what do you have, an iPhone? Go to the App Store and download our app. So you'll be able to do that directly. And I guess that's maybe what his question is. Yeah,
Dalen said my app distribution question was connected to the App Store question.
Yes, because it's all about what you do. I mean, I don't want to. I tell you, we're really going to be. If you really get deep, who was that? Who asked that question?
Dalen did.
Dalen, that's a good question, because really what we're talking about is what iOS or Apple just changed their terms of service, and they're in a big kind of fight or war with Facebook right now, because they're going to the App Store. Apple will now tell all app users how your data, all consumers, how your data is being shared. So if Dalen has his own customers, he can tell them, hey, do you mind opt in if I want to share your data? But Facebook doesn't do that. They leverage data of small business customers. This will give Dalen the power back to leverage the data of his own customers if his customers agree to that. You see, because right now, Facebook is doing that anyway. They are leveraging, all these major platforms are leveraging your data. And the reason why Facebook is upset with Instagram and everything with Apple, because Apple says, we're just going to tell the public what you're doing. And they're like, well, why? We don't want you to do that. Because that's why Facebook makes so much money in ad. They can be like, well, Tawana was, looking at something at Macy's today. And then all of a sudden, an hour later, you get a Macy's ad. So Dalen should be able to do that. But I also would say to him, because there's a lot of laws coming down, that he tells his customers to opt in. You're my favorite customer. Do you mind if I share your data? Or, say that, hey, we service customers between this age group and that age group. And then Dalen can then pick up his own advertisers in addition to his business. So he doesn't have, I'm saying the system's going to go from this sort of horizontal top, but from the bottom up, where Dalen or you can grow your business organically and then get to a horizontal point by what you've built. So if you've got 500 customers, right? Or 1,000 customers, let's say, but I was trying to say like a small, I wanted to say consistent customers. So let's think of like a restaurant. So you've got a good, let's just break it down. Because my PhD in AI is focused on economics, and that's been my pre-study anyway. I've been focused on Paul Romer's work. That's what my book was about, was artificial intelligence, cryptocurrencies, and by the way, ideas. And I wrote that in 2017, and Paul Romer won the Nobel Prize in economic science in 2018, relating to specifically economic growth, ideas, and climate change. So when you look at ideas, you should be able to have that growth yourself. If you've got 500 customers and you're a restaurant and they're referring businesses, they're referring other people, that's a network in of itself. And everyone knows you. If your customers are okay, you should then be able to leverage that network to then have advertisers pay that business instead of right now the small businesses is paying Facebook to go get new customers instead of the other way around.
Okay.
And some of them are heading this way, by the way. The big companies are all trying to get there. Like Shopify is saying, we're going to help you, pay you. They already know that trend's happening, is what I'm saying. That's why you'll hear some platforms saying, we're going to pay you to make money. If you're a gig economy, we're going to help you be able to survive and help you make money on your own. And even Clubhouse, you can make money on Clubhouse. You're going to see more of that because they already know that the trend's changing.
So let me ask you this, and then we'll get to the other question in the Q&A, but help us understand your 5-year roadmap. So you raise the money you need, then what? Then what's after that? So take us on the journey.
Are we talking about, well, the data points has to be not so much a 5-year roadmap. We're just talking about, does investors coming in early? What might be the material, the event where they have an exit? Because ours is just growth. But then at that iteration, it comes a point, do we go public via a SPAC or IPO, or do we get bought out? But our 5-year plan is just organic growth. Me and my team are well capable to manage the company. I am a founder. I'm greater than 42, so I don't need to really work for someone else, and I know enough knowledge. I got enough team members to run this all the way up. I'm not the Stanford 22-year-old or 25-year-old, and I'm also not blonde hair, so to speak, where you normally just do this pop-up, tech company and you sell it. But where I envision and where I see coming, especially with AI, artificial intelligence, is how big the company comes. I mean, this company, in a sense, the way I've always envisioned this, and I've said this before, which is thinking about it, doesn't sound sexy and cool, but it's real money. It's kind of like FedEx. And Amazon got in that space, but FedEx and UPS, mainly FedEx, many, many years ago, before the post office was that they came parallel to how companies can move packages. Because back then, we didn't have enough technology, and so FedEx and UPS came. And they're just sort of your stabilized companies that are behind the individual of keeping the economics going. And that's what AIDC will do, utilizing artificial intelligence and AGI for economic forecasts. But to really grow organically, and I probably see us having somewhere, there's no guarantees, but I think an acquisition of 200,000 to 300,000 customers, small business owners monthly, that can aggregate. And one of the interesting things is Amazon was losing a lot of money. They still will lose money until AWS came along, but when they invented Prime, they actually start not losing as much money. Because before this, Amazon never had Prime. They were trying to roll out things, but that Prime subscription, that 1-year subscription model, it gave them a benchmark because they were constantly losing money. So our model is to be the same, sort of to have a subscription of these businesses, utilizing the service, just like you do with the phone service. There's a lot of carriers getting in this. And to tell you how big 5G is, this mobile app will be 5G compliant. Verizon just raised a $100 billion bond for 5G. And it was oversubscribed in 2 days. Oversubscribed. Okay. They were raising $100 billion, okay, for bonds, meaning they wanted to sell bonds like stocks because they were selling a corporate bond. Within, I think, 2 days, it was oversubscribed. They had to turn people away. And it was so that they could build out their 5G and deploy it throughout the US. So that tells everyone in the financial world, if Verizon's raising $100 billion, number one, for 5G, and it was oversubscribed, I think, in 1 or 2 days, and I could be off on maybe 3 days, but it was oversubscribed. and it was a very short time period, then how important is 5G to how they see it? See, they're going to provide that service. And these are top institutional investors who know the market well. So when you look at that, we're rolling out not just a mobile app maker, but it has two significant points: artificial intelligence on the back end, and it's going to be 5G compliant on the front end. So that separates a lot. So anyone can have, and 5G is just the speed, latency, security, layers, those kind of things behind it. So when you're talking about that, you're looking at it a little bit different. But our game plan is to have that service provider be a service provider, not so much in the telco space. It's kind of hard to envision now, because you're like thinking, well, because everyone used to know in the past, what's an ISP? Now we didn't think of internet ISP, which is your internet service provider. The reason why most people don't, because they get them through their mobile provider now. They get most of their services through a mobile provider or cable if they still live in certain areas around the country. But the majority of the bigger places are getting, especially in Europe and Asia, it's all mobile. It's all the mobile providers.
So Ellis, how much does it cost me to download the app maker, to use this product to create my app? What would the fee be?
We haven't priced out the numbers yet on the cost structure. I mean, that's after the raise, and once we get to MVP and do more research and so forth. I mean, it's not ready to launch yet, so that needs to be discovered of what we're building, how we're going to build, what's this going to look like. We're pre-seed, so this isn't the way where it's already ready to launch.
Have you thought about what the different revenue streams in would be?
Yes.
Is there something in addition to the cost for me to download the app maker?
Yes, I mean, you'll have downloading it will be, I think, let's say downloading it would probably be free, but once you opt in, a lot of this is a flat service, annual fee maybe, of doing the app. And this is a standard, like if anyone has ever created a site, it's a standard model, right? There's 2 to 3 streams, right? So one stream is you download, like if you're going to make a website and you wanted to use a template, you pay the one annual fee. I think Squarespace does like a template, an annual template fee, $20 or a year or something, or 40 or whatever. And then if you wanted to customize it or host it, those are different fee levels. Like you're just able to make the site, but do you want to host it on Squarespace? Or they tell you need to get a domain name, and they aggregate some of these add-ons. We'll probably point people to where those add-ons are, because our focus mainly initially wants to just be letting them download the mobile app maker, getting it onto the App Store or Android store, and then adding other customization services after that. Our focus for the company, though, is to help small businesses on our sweet spot will be the forecast. Okay, so to tell people who are in a small business who aren't as used to it, and I'm just saying just to educate. I'm not being condescending at all. But the reason why your Fortune 1000 companies, 500 or Fortune, global biggest companies, they pay McKinsey a lot of money to give them that headwind knowledge. They just don't show. They show it on there if you ever go through their P&L, profit and loss, or their revenue. So let's take a company like Ford. Ford has been paying McKinsey lots of money to figure out how to catch Elon Musk, way before Elon even rolled out an electric car. That knowledge of trends and economic forecast is the most valuable thing. And we're going to create the same kind of service where it comes in sort of, maybe it'll be monthly or quarterly, for the small business owners to be able to get a report like that, utilizing artificial intelligence and macroeconomic data, sort of a trend forecast. That is the holy grail, because all this other stuff is reactive. You see what I mean? Because you wonder why the rich get richer. Me and you have talked about this, Tawana. Mm-hmm. They'll be out of real estate, like they've gotten out of commercial real estate way before COVID hit. There's a lot of people I know that were out of commercial real estate a year before COVID hit, because they already saw. And you know what gave them the clue to that? WeWork. WeWork, the company, I talked to some of these top CEOs. They said WeWork gave them an indication of the trend to get out of, to divest away from commercial real estate. In the past, commercial real estate was more valuable than residential. And then COVID hit. So if you had, $1 for every dime you could have picked, that's what we're focused on at the end of the day. That's going to be our sweet spot and our differentiator. Okay. But it's to bring it to the small and mid-sized businesses who do not, it's access. At the end of the day, It's access to knowledge. I'm talking
Mhm.
knowledge. I'm not talking speculation or guesswork. It's pure. And a lot of people just don't have that knowledge.
Right.
They react when the news tells them something 8 months later.
Got you. Okay. So we've got a couple more questions. Dalen says apps are typically developed among teams. How do you manage
Among what?
multi-user? Apps are typically developed among teams. How do you manage multi-user access to one project?
Among teens. He means teenagers?
Teams, Teams, teams.
Oh yeah, my team. Well, welcome to COVID. I mean, I'm confused.
Yeah, let me read the question again. Apps are typically developed among teams, period. How do you manage multi-user access to one project?
I'm confused. Well, I think we're going back because the way he needs to look at it, I think the framing is wrong. It's literally like Squarespace where you can develop a template. It'll be a template app, and customization will be what that small business owner wants on it. Once it's a template, it'll have some structure to it. It will, oh, so maybe what David is, okay, so if I'm trying to re-reference, he's going from A to Z on what, let's think about Clubhouse as an app, okay? Yes, that's a team, and that's one app that's iterating to go vertically very deeply and then horizontally out. But an audio app in of itself is not very difficult. Clubhouse's app is very simple to make. My son is 17. Well, we're talking about my son. He could make Clubhouse app. It wouldn't be Clubhouse.
We've already got a Black man that made that app. His name is Allende, and the app is Needle. So that's already been done. Tell your son to find something else.
Right. No, I'm saying, so to Dalen's point, it's not, because when he said teams, it's what do you want that app to do? And what do you want to build on top of that, right? So I let you say Needle because I was, but my point is, you're right. See, everyone thought, and this was before Clubhouse. Everyone thought Clubhouse.
2017. Yeah.
Yeah, but Clubhouse just got a lot of money behind it, a lot of power, and then they used a lot of celebrities, mostly African American celebrities, which I know a lot, who went on the app and they start posting and they got bigger. And then they built horizontally. But the app itself is not that difficult to build. And that's what we would kind of envision. It's a template. They'll get on board, the small business, but it's like a template website. If they want more customization, we can give them the code to be able to customize that or maybe build off that and say, okay, you want let's say a small business says, well, this app is generic. I want to add a bunch of tools and whistles and more than what you offer. All right, fine. We hand you over the code and you still, host us as a service because our thing is not the app. See, he keeps, our holy grail is going to be the artificial intelligence if we're working with us on the opt-in data to give you that trend forecast of your customers.
I think that's clear. I do think what I'm getting from some of Dalen's questions though is you've got to the small and mid-sized business.
Yeah.
It's twofold. I get the data, but I also have to manage the app, right? And so I think Dalen was trying to get to how easy is the app maker going to make that process for me.
Oh,
right?
Yeah, well, okay. So, Tawana, we got to make it, keep it short and simple, okay? So it'll be a template where, yeah, if you're not tech savvy, click here, go live here. It needs to be that, change this word here. That's what a template website does. So I'm sorry if I wasn't clear there. I kind of assume most people would know template websites, but template websites are literally, would you like color A, blue, red, or green, as your background color? It's kind of template, right? Would you like words on the left side or the right side? And you're like, yes, no, and then you put in your personal data and you go, bing, okay, go live. And then you wait for approval from like the iOS store, the Android store, and they go, hey, you're live on the app. And then you're like, wow, I want to customize it. Then that's the next iteration. But yes, it's going to kind of be, keep it short and simple. We'll probably be partnering with, I don't know if it'll be Square. I'm going to put stuff ahead of time. I doubt that because Jack Durst is always cheesy. So yeah, but we'll probably partner with a financial service provider on the back end because it won't be us to make it easy as a kind of system. to make it easy for them to take transactions and have that security of taking payment. And the key thing about the app maker is for businesses to take payment. So that's also the holy grail. If you can pre-book services, so instead of like a hairdresser, right? The reason why Starbucks makes so much money, a lot of hairdressers like, okay, you're going to make a hairdresser appointment, and the hairdresser salon says, okay, fine, I got you booked in for the appointment. Just so you know, I'm going to hit your credit card for 50% down. You don't show up, at least the small business doesn't have to lose the appointment. Like you were supposed to come at 5 and something happened and you couldn't, but they can be able to collect revenue and not just be that zero-sum game of revenue. That's what people do with Starbucks. That's why they opt into the mobile app. It gives convenience, but you're kind of prepaying for something even before you've actually received it. So that's what's going to allow a lot of small businesses to book that revenue in a sort of prepaid, neither half down, whatever that small business decides they want to have. But the main thing is, yeah, Susan canceled on me, John canceled on me, and the hairstyler, or salon person didn't book appointments for that slot. That's a lot of revenue lost. That happens a lot, and all across all kind of businesses. So if it's a service business, it's a way to collect, for the small business owner to collect that money ahead of time. That's not so. What the world's been trained about is they're trained in consumer purchases. They only can train in e-commerce. Like, I'm going to buy a widget. I want to buy some shoes. I know how that works. I'm going to buy this hat. I know how that works. But we're going to go to more services, and that's where DoorDash is coming in. You prepay DoorDash before that food ever gets to you.
Okay. Kenneth says, are there any limitations on app size, and how is the cost to your business client determined?
The latter part, I'm thinking, app size, that would probably be, if there is going to be the size of, I don't know, there is going to be a size of the app. That may depend more on what they build on it, and maybe to Android and to iOS stores, because I do notice a lot of the apps there are a certain size to download, but I don't think there'll be a limit from us. If there will be a limit, it'll be a limit. I mean, past customization, there won't be a limit for us, because we're just going to allow you to do it and post it yourself. So it'll be a limit from probably Android or iOS, if there is a limit. What was the second question?
I'm sorry, we took it off the screen. Hold on, let me get back to it. And how is the cost to your business client determined?
Okay. I'll just reiterating. That kind of will be a one-time cost for using the mobile app maker. And then there will be a subscription cost on top of that regarding the economic data and those services like churn prediction, those kind of things, our services. If they wanted customization of their own app and they wanted us to maybe do it ourselves, that would be an additional cost. But I'm really looking at focus on those two. I'm horizontal, which is a one-time service to just get people, the masses, to be able to create their own mobile app. And then to do that service subscription behind with economic data, economic development, headwinds, forecasting. If there's customization, we may get into that. We'll initially be able to provide, at the very least, we'll always be able to provide a resource if we don't do it ourselves. But that's not top of mind for me. Top of mind are the other two. Because I think there'll be enough customization that leads more into, we are artificial intelligence as a service. Not like a provider like Verizon just makes sure you connect. They don't care what you do on the phone all the time, right? Their bread and butter is connecting you or AT&T or T-Mobile, connecting you on your device, and making sure your uptime is there, and that's it. I mean, they're not trying to be, Tawana, you're talking to LS today. But we want to kind of refer businesses out to that, because that's what you're talking about is IT services and customization, and that's a whole nother can of worms. We're looking, I think, to build up, to have the uniqueness, artificial intelligence around economic data using AI, AGI, machine learning, quantum machine learning, and even, it's almost like DeepMind that was bought by Google for $650 million. They're very good at game theory of beating game like AlphaGo. So do the niche and do it extremely well. These auxiliary things can be there, but the customization side will probably just be a resource for us at this moment. unless, someone's really start to be able to provide that though. But so that they don't have to search around, but it would be partners that we might service out to or something.
Okay. And Sauda says, can this app work for nonprofit social service agencies?
Does websites work? I mean, I would just say people need to start thinking of, and I'm sorry, because I know what's coming and I'm a little bit of a futurist. We really need to see the world the way I remember, circa 1995, everyone was like, websites are stupid. I've got the phone book. Why would a person, 1997, why would a person need a website? And then the websites were just your name, your photo, and a phone number of a static page. And then people are like, wow, I guess this will pick up at some point. And around 2000, it really picked up. And now we're in 2021, and we don't even know people without a website. We have Facebook accounts. We have all of this. We're now heading in the next level of this. And that level is going to be, we're going to go from decentralized, what I would say is one-to-one versus a go to a centralized place, almost like crypto. So we're heading to a place where apps will be like websites, but easier and more convenient because everyone's doing apps. And just to give you some data points on that, Xbox, Microsoft announced yesterday, or the day before, that they are gaming console. They're actually getting rid of their gaming consoles. Like they're fading it away to be, you can play games on any device almost via the cloud. So they will still have the, and they made a lot of money on those little game boxes, those little devices you hold in your hand at home. They're pivoting away from that because the world's going more mobile in that sense of digital. So they're like, if you want to play Xbox in your living room, you can, but let's say you got to go to the park, you want to play on your mobile device. That's where 5G comes in. That gate, see, that's the same thing when everything's going to go mobile and device. And eventually we're going to get to wearables, just to tell you what's coming, where you might play on your watch or something. So I don't want to go, but that's where all the money and the real top investors are going. And that's going to be, so you're going to think of an app as a service. And the easier it is for your customers to reach you, and from you to communicate with you. Anytime they're going even to a website, and it's your site, that's not real-time data. A website, you're pushing information to everyone. You're not pushing information to me.
Right.
I don't care. I'm being honest. You know me, Tawani. I don't care what we're going to be open July the 4th. I want to know when my cleaning is ready. My cleaning. I don't care about you're open at these hours. So we're going to get to that kind of world without a person trying to text manage. And some of these will be able, mobile app maker will be able to include basic services in the template like messaging, and it'll facilitate that. That's part of the template. Okay. So it'll facilitate direct messaging and sort of for people who have the app, and to be able to take payments. So some of these basic things, like, so then the business owner can update the app maker, but then it could be able to pinpoint when they go in the back office of the app maker and say, I want to message these 10 customers.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it's like ping, and then it'll when you open the app, just like you know this, Tawana, but like Clubhouse or Instagram or all these, it'll show you got messages, right? Like if someone's that's distributed directly to me. Like someone pinged me and messaged me in Instagram, it shows me that someone messaged me in Instagram. So that's a direct messaging. So that kind of stuff will be included because that's a standard, just if it wasn't.
Right. Very good. So let's close this out with Warren's question, a very good question to end on. Warren says, I see this as the AI version of the proverbial crystal ball or predictive intelligence.
I like Warren. What?
Warren then says, if I invest, say, $10,000 in this endeavor, how will I recoup my investment and how long will it take?
Well, to answer Warren's question, legally and logically, there are no guarantees of recoupment, okay? It is a hold theory, but what we would like to do is your investment would be well appreciated. It would help us get on its way. And I would say, look at it as a 3 to 5 year plan to hold, like real estate used to be if you invested. It's something that, you keep updated about with the company. We'll keep updating you as well and keep you informed. But you look at it as a whole thing. And yeah, I mean, well, the question is, go back. what if I smell at this when he said the crystal ball of AI, because he's right in that sense of what if people could own Amazon back when? They're still crying about this, and they even cry about cryptocurrency or Bitcoin. It's just, but there are risks. Every investor should know that. And you never invest, and you know this, Tawana, we talk about this. This is discretionary. This is your.
Oh, the community knows. They know also. They know disposable income only. They know.
And we've always been consumers of tech. I told you this, right? We've been consuming tech, and we are consumers of everything, but we don't build it. I'm talking about our community now. We don't build. We're always like, oh, I'll spend my money, go to the movies, and I'll buy this and buy that. We're always consuming, but we haven't built wealth. And the future of wealth is no longer even, I'm gonna say this, no longer, in my opinion, even residential real estate. It's going to be technology, specifically technology. And I want to almost be, really, really extreme, 90% technology. And that will involve artificial intelligence, 5G, quantum, which is coming, quantum machine learning or quantum AI. I'm working on that now in my thesis and my PhD, but and economics, because the world's about to shift. And I do talk to friends in Africa, in Clubhouse, and in other forums I'm on, like Facebook and stuff. And I talk WhatsApp, I talk to friends around the world. And they're saying Africa's growing, just as a side note, because my brain does that. Sorry, people, I just have a wide brain. But it does that where people are like, Africa's just coming up with tech. They're like, we're not going to be held back anymore. So all of that. So this is our wealth grab if we grab it, and not be tricked into spending something else. Or using it. But that's all I would say. But it involves that, and I'm blessed and fortunate enough to know this knowledge and to have the team members around me. And I've got access to a lot of research. My partnership with Lowe's University gives me is signed with the president, and they are the MIT. So I have access to over 3,000 students and 1,500 professors for any project I decide. Oh, I'm sorry, that's a side note. I can do research and development outside of my whole company for any other company. That's why I said I don't want to do the small business customization, but let's say that a mid-sized, very large industrial company came to you, Tawana, and says, oh, can LS, company do research for an AI custom project for my company only? I can do that with that university, and we can do it in tandem, and we can develop it separately from that. So that is our other business model, but I don't want to digress. That's going to be more a corporate structure later. I really want to help the small businesses, but it's sort of how Amazon pivoted to AWS. I'm following the same kind of playbook, because at first they were a book, they were just an online book e-commerce. People forget that. All he did was sell books. And then he started selling everything. And then he went into selling the cloud. And then he became the richest man in the world. So.
Very good. Well, on that note, very good.
Every time we talk, you're like, LS, okay, you're just, your brain, slow it down.
Dude, you got one of those brains. I love every bit of it. I love it. I don't have one of those brains, but I love people who have it. I will say this. Thank you so much for coming and sharing this project with us. The whole premise of the 10K project is to get early access to this type of business, right? So that we can get that seat at the table to help grow wealth and build wealth within our own families and portfolios. I say all the time, we're not.
Tawana? Looks like you got. Okay.
Tawana's power has just went out. She will be back here shortly. She's trying to get back on.
Oh, I see. Okay. I was thinking, I said, I still have a live feed, so I was thinking it wasn't me.
Yes, we're still going.
Okay.
Oh, she said she's having an electrical storm, so we are going to, yes, but thank you everyone.
At least we got to most of it.
We got to all of it, actually, so thank you so much.
second, because every time I get on them talk tech, something happens. But
Oh, no, we are definitely in the storm range, but thank you everyone for joining us. Have a great evening. And again, you can find the information in the chat about this evening's campaign. Have a great one, everyone.
Guys.